ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaste, dear friends. I am going to start the third video of Sadhu Om's book, Light on the Teachings of Maharshi Ramana. I will start from the heading Devotion and Knowledge, Bhakti and Jnana, verse number 79. To the extent to which love for God arises in one's heart, to that extent will one acquire knowledge about Him, and to the extent to which one knows the nature of God, to that extent will the mind gain steadfast love for Him. Thus, knowledge, jnana, will be increased by devotion, bhakti, and devotion, bhakti, will be increased by knowledge, jnana. Verse 80. By means of our love for God, He will give us more knowledge of Him, and by means of our knowledge of Him, He will give us more love for Him. Therefore, of these two paths, bhakti and jnana, follow that one for which you first gain a liking, because that one path will lead you to follow the other one into the heart. Verse 81. In the life of an aspirant who is seeking liberation, bhakti and jnana will be experienced as inseparable, like the two sides of one sheet of paper. Hence, each one is equal to the other. They are not two different things, for the true nature of both of them is one and the same. Know that bhakti and jnana are merely two names for that one thing. Already I have discussed in my previous video. Jnana and bhakti both lead to the Atma. So only there is name of two different paths, but the basic destination goal is same, reaching the Atma. Land of Gurus saying, Garland of Gurus saying Guru Vachka Koi, verses 720 to 31. Verse 82. The state of abiding firmly in self alone is wisdom, jnana. Would it be possible to abide thus in self if one did not have love for self? Love for self alone is bhakti. Abiding firmly in self on account of that love alone is jnana. What difference is there between these two? Discriminate and know this truth. Maharshi's Gospel, page 24. If there did not exist the power of gravity which attracts and pulls everything towards the earth, would anything remain stable on earth? On scrutiny, devotion, bhakti is found to be similar to the gravitational power of attraction, while the state of wisdom, jnana, is found to be similar to the state of objects remaining stable on earth as a result of that attraction. If either one of these two, the power of attraction or bhakti, and the state of abidance or jnana, were absent, the other one would not exist. An aspirant who practices self-enquiry, which is the path of jnana, denies his own individuality by knowing I, this insignificant ego, am not the doer of any action, while a devotee denies his own individuality by knowing God alone is the doer of all action. Thus, Since an aspirant who follows either of these two paths refrains from assuming the sense of doership. Understand that these two paths are not different even during the time of practice and follow either of them. See, a devotee engaged in self inquiry, what he is doing, he is simply destroying his mind and ego. Another devotee who is following the path of bhakti, what he is doing? Instead of giving importance to his ego, he leaves everything on God. So both the paths are same. Exactly, both are ignoring mind and ego. So there is no difference. Theoretically, there is no difference. But okay. 85. We should not allow our minds to become bewildered and confused by trying to deliberate and decide which of these two, the practice of bhakti or the practice of jnana, is the best means for attaining liberation. For whichever path is liking arises in the heart of a person, for that person, that path alone is the best. Verse 86. According to the strength of habit, continuing from former lives, in this life the mind will acquire a liking either for the path of devotion or the direct and unfailing path of self inquiry, and will feel that particular path to be the best and most suited to itself. Therefore, follow at least one of these two paths to its very end. Inquiry becoming easy due to devotion. Verse 87. When having wept and wept with intense yearning for a long time, unceasingly thinking of and adoring the gracious feet of the Lord, the mind which rises as I am so and so dissolves and becomes pure. The blemishless self-inquiry, Jnanatam Vichara, will become firmly settled in the heart, and the experience of self, Savrupa Anubhava, will of its own accord arise very easily indeed. Sri Murgnar from Sri Ramana Jnana Bodham, verse 1286. Verse 88. O you who say, we have never seen you closing your eyes and practicing self abidance, Nishtha, tell us, how did you attain the state of inner silence, Mona? Understanding the above words, know the secret of how to attain the true experience of God, who is not seen even though one waits closing one's eyes for a long time in expectation of seeing his true vision. The previous verse is the answer to the above question. Self surrender and self inquiry. Verse 89. Since the ego, please try to understand, this is very, very important. Since the ego itself is everything, for a normal person, he is not in the knowledge of Atma. For him, ego is everything, as revealed by Sri Bhagwan in verse 26 of Reality in 40 verses. Giving up the ego, the feeling I am this body, by surrendering it to God, is lovingly surrendering everything to Him. Having once surrendered the ego to God, abiding in self without taking it back again, that is, without again identifying the body as I or mine, is true tapas. Having surrendered the ego to God, if one takes it back again, that is the sin of stealing back what has once been given. Therefore, in order to avoid committing such a sin, practice self attention unfailingly, because only if one attends to the ego vigilantly and unceasingly will it drown in the heart so as never to rise again. Garland of Gurus Singh, verse 317. Verse 91. Destroying the ego through self attention is alone the excellent path of self surrender. Therefore, scrutinizing and knowing one's own self is alone the proper method of practicing both self surrender, the path of devotion, and self inquiry, the path of knowledge. Compare with Who Am I? 13th paragraph, where Sri Bhagwan says, remaining firmly surrendering oneself to God. Verse 92. The path of knowledge in which we scrutinize who am I is itself the path of devotion in which we have true love for God. Knowing this, that self inquiry and self surrender are one and the same, not only in their goal but also in their method of practice, follow the practice of self attention. See, self attention means forgetting mind, ego, all thoughts, only concentrating on the self, that is our Atma. In one of his stray verses, Garland of Guru's sayings or Guru Vachka Koi, verse B13, Sri Bhagwan says, attention to self is supreme devotion to God, because God exists as self. See, we have to remember, in our spiritual heart, our Atma resides. And in the same spiritual heart, God also resides. God and Atma both are same, no difference. You say Brahma, you say Atma, both are same. There is no difference. And remember, God, Atma, spiritual heart, same thing, no difference. See, we have to remember these things. These are the basic Brahma Jnana. There is no difference between God, Atma, and spiritual heart. Hear them. So, there is no difference. Why? See, what is God? Omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. What is Atma? Omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. That means power of Atma is infinite, power of God is infinite, power of our spiritual heart is infinite. So, infinite, everything is the same. There is no limitation. Heart, no limitation. Atma, no limitation. God, no limitation. And remember, this heart, what I'm talking, this is not the biological heart. That is separate. So, a scrutiny of the three states. Verse 93. If we did not have the good fortune of having attained a human body which enables us to experience daily the three states of waking, dream, and sleep, how could we have the fitness to do self inquiry? Therefore, this human birth is indeed superior to all other births. 94. Except in this human body, all these three states are not experienced in one lifetime by any soul, whether they were divine, animal, or plant. Therefore, a very great boon indeed is the boon God has bestowed upon us in the form of this human birth, which is such a good opportunity, enabling us to inquire and know the self. Celestial beings, devas, experience only the waking state. Animals experience only sleep and a dream-like waking state. Plants experience only sleep, and insentient objects like stones are always in a state like swoon. Only in the human birth does one experience all the three states of waking, dream, and sleep. Hence, even devas must take birth as human beings if they wish to attain self knowledge, the state of liberation. Verse 95. The three states of waking, dream, and dreamless deep sleep are experienced daily by all human beings, are they not? If we keenly scrutinize the nature of these three states, knowledge of the state of liberation, which is the reality of these three states, will be attained by us as a direct experience. Verse 96. In the waking state, we exist as I am, but in this state, beside us, so many second and third person objects of various kinds are also known by the mind. How have all these come here? Verse 97. In dream also we exist as I am, having become the one who sees everything there, but in that state also so many second and third person objects of various kinds are again known by the mind. How did all those come there? 98. In sleep also we exist as I am. However, in that state we do not see anything appearing as other than us. Therefore, our state of existing as I am alone shines always without ever slackening or being obstructed, whereas our state of knowing objects other than us undergoes change. Hence, our state of existing as I am is alone the one unchanging state. Verse 99. The state of our existing as I am, which shines in all the three states continuously and without ever coming to an end, is our exalted state of real knowledge. It is the state of Purana, the whole objects other than I do not exist in all the three states. Hence, our own nature, the self existence, I am alone, is the reality which ever exists. Verse 100. Since objects other than I, such as the body and world, do not exist unceasingly in all the three states, but rise and appear to exist only in between in the waking and dream states, they cannot be the reality which exists always and without being obstructed. This conclusion arrived, arrived at by scrutinizing our experiences these three states is the foundation for the practice of self-inquiry. Verse 101. These objects other than I, which exist at one time and do not exist at another time, are truly non existent even at the time when they appear to exist. When scrutinized, waking and dream are both found to be only one in nature because the objects which appear to exist in each of these states unfailingly cease to exist in any other state. Verse 102. That state in which any object seen is not experienced as other than the one who sees is alone the state of reality. If the seer, who is an unreal ego, rises, then only will all the unreal objects other than I rise and seem to exist. Verse 103. The dream world and the one who living there identifying a dream body as I and sees that dream world, both together constitute the dream. The waking state is also like that. That is not only the seemingly vast world that is perceived in front of us as if existing as other than us, and also we, the Jiva, who sees this waking world both together constitute the appearance of this dream, which is called the waking state. Verse 104. In practice, waking and dream are only one and the same. Just as in waking the mind thinks I am this body, so in dream also the mind projects a body by its creative power of imagination and functions there feeling I am this body. 105 verse. Until the root tendency, mula vasana, to identify a body as I ceases to exist, the appearances of the waking and dream states that arise due to delusion maya will not come to an end. If you, with a one pointed mind, keenly and incessantly attend to the consciousness of your existence, which shines as pure I am, the root tendency, I am the body and all its products and other tendencies will cease to exist. Verse 106. To remain inactive, forgetting the feeling, I am the body, is sleep. In the dense ignorance of this sleep arises a creative imagination of the mind, mana kalpana, and this alone is the cause for the appearance of dream. Therefore, it is the mind alone that projects a dream. Verse 107. Similarly, in the long sleep of ignorance, ajnana, which has engulfed us due to our forgetfulness of our true state of pure self-consciousness and imagination in mind, my manakalpana rises identifying a contemptible fleshy body as I, and this alone is the cause for the rising and appearance of this despicable waking state which we are now experiencing. Verse 108. Just as sleep alone is the cause for the appearance of dream, so the sleep of forgetfulness of our true self-knowledge is alone the cause for the appearance of this waking state. In this long sleep of self-forgetfulness, many dreams in the form of countless births come and go. Verse 109. To know that just like a person who, without coming to the waking state, merges in deep sleep after the dream he was seeing has come to an end, if the dream of the person birth that this person has taken is brought to an end by death, before he attains the true waking state of self-knowledge, he will merge again into the underlying ancient sleep of self-forgetfulness. Verse 110. Just like a person who was seeing a dream and who then leaves that dream and falls into deep sleep without coming to the waking state, if the waking body dies before we attain the state of self-knowledge, we will fall into state like deep sleep. Just as a dream appears as soon as the mind of a person immersed in sleep rises and begins to wander, so after the death of this waking body, as soon as the mind rises and begins to wander on account of its former tendencies, a waking state will again arise in which a body will seemingly exist as if I. Verse 111. Taking birth again, having come out of the delusion enfolded state of death, and living a life of whirling about in this waking state, and finally dying without attaining self knowledge, is just like a person rising as I from deep sleep, seeing a dream again, and finally once again merging in sleep. You will not take birth again only if you awaken into the true state of self knowledge. Awaken thus. If a person who has fallen asleep and is seeing a dream suddenly wakes up, by his awakening he will attain a state in which sleep and dream have both been dispelled. Similarly, if a person awakens from the present so-called waking state by attaining the exalted state of self-knowledge, the dream of birth and death and the underlying sleep of forgetfulness will both be dispelled, and he will thereafter never again undergo either birth or death. The state of real awakening, that is Turiya, which he thus attains and which transcends the three ordinary states of waking, dream, and sleep, is the state of liberation. Verse 113. If the power of attention, which sees the second and third person objects existing in dream, turns to attend to itself, both the first person who sees the dream and the dream will disappear. The sleep that is the cause for the rising of that first person will be dispersed, and the worthy state of true awakening will be experienced. Verse 114. Similarly, if the power of attention, which knows the second person objects existing in the waking state, turns to attend to itself. The I who sees this waking state, the waking state will disappear. The long sleep of self forgetfulness, which is the cause for the rising of the individual sense of I, will be dispersed, and the true waking state of self knowledge will be attained. Therefore, attend only to yourself, the first person consciousness I. Even before the experience of the current destiny, prarabdha karma, which caused the appearance of a dream, has come to an end. If the mind is struck by intense fear, joy, or suffering, its power of attention will be driven selfwards and return to the heart, whereupon waking will result. Prarabdha is the part of one's destiny or karma that has to be worked out in this life. Sanchita is one's karma accumulated in former lives that has not yet taken effect. Verse 116. Similarly, even before all the accumulated Sanchita karmas have been exhausted by being experienced in the form of prarabdha, if in this present life, which was started by prarabdha, the mind either gains firm dispassion, vairagya, being unable to bear the severe sufferings of life, or experiences intense fear of death, it will turn selfwards and merge in the heart, whereupon the true awakening of self-knowledge will result. Verse 117. When such intense fear or suffering are experienced, if the mind with mature discrimination, viveka, at once earnestly scrutinizes to whom does this fear or suffering arise, then the extroverted power of attention, which was till then being dragged out towards objects other than itself, will turn inwards to face itself, whereupon the truly awakened life of self abidance will immediately be attained. Verse 118. Just as all that happens in dream is experienced as real so long as one is seeing that dream, so all that is now happening in this waking state is experienced as real. If the dream comes to an end, all that was seen there will be known to be unreal. Similarly, for those who have awakened from the so-called waking state by attaining self-knowledge, all the happenings in this state are clearly known to be unreal. Verse 119. As soon as the inwardly awakened state of self-abidance is attained, all the adjuncts in the form of the wrong identification that the actions of the body are one's own actions will become devoid of, devoid of reality, being found to be mere superimpositions upon one's nameless and formless nature, just like the blue color superimposed upon the colorless sky, and the truth that one is only the adjunct free self will clearly shine forth. Verse 120. Only in this real waking state of self abidance will true knowledge blossom in the form of the ajata experience. No mundane dual activity such as birth and death has ever touched me. I am self, the existence consciousness which is ever devoid of body and the senses. Verse 121. The pure consciousness I, which exists in sleep, devoid of all adjuncts, is the supreme reality, Brahma. If we do not slip down from the state of pure consciousness due to attachment to the body, Dehabhimana, that itself is the supreme abode, pra, Pran hmm, Pranadhama. If we remain without living self, that itself is liberation. Verse 122. Though we think sleep to be a state of darkness because no other objects are known there, know that it is not possible for anyone to deny his own existence in sleep. When you are able to affirm your experience in sleep, it was darkness, there were no thoughts, and it was a happy state. Is it not clear that you existed in sleep? To be able to affirm thus, who was that you who existed in sleep? Tell me. Verse 123. Your ability to affirm all the three experiences mentioned above shows not only that you existed in sleep, but also that you knew these experiences. There does it not. This existence knowledge which existed and was known in sleep is indeed the fearless existence consciousness, Satya Chit, your own state and the real nature of self. Verse 124. In sleep, in which you existed solitarily as the mere existence consciousness, Satya Chit, you were the experiencer of sublime happiness, devoid of even a single petty misery, even though you were separated from all the possessions and all the objects which you seek in the waking state for happiness, were you not? That happiness which you experienced in sleep is indeed bliss, Ananda, your true nature. Verse 125. To become a hero who abides as self, the infinite reality, Pripurna Brahma, whose nature is existence, consciousness, bliss, Satyachit Ananda, devoid of experience of any body or any world, is the fruit to be gained by proper scrutiny of the three states of waking, dream, and sleep. Verse 126. The Supreme Guru, Sri Ramana, has given the above clues so that, having thoroughly scrutinized the three states, we may finally abide blissfully forever as self, our own true nature, which transcends the three states. Now, heading superimposition of the qualities of self upon the ego. Verse 127. If you ask after appearing in the waking state, how can this mischievous ego which did not exist in sleep, say anything about the experience which existed in sleep. Let us scrutinize and see. Tell me, does not self, which existed in sleep as the existence, consciousness, I am, continue to exist without any impediment in this waking state also? Verse 128. Except the knowledge of the first person, singular, the existence, I am, all the multifarious knowledge which shine in the waking state and which pertain to names and forms are only knowledge belonging to the unreal ego. But the knowledge of one's own existence, I am, is the properly property of self. 129. Though this insentient ego, which rises and dances like a ghost only in the waking state, cheats itself by making the self consciousness I am, which self alone experienced previously in sleep, appear to be its own there in the waking state. Know that in truth, self consciousness, I am, is a quality belonging only to the self, that is our Atma. Verse 130. Listen to another example of how the ego thus usurps the qualities of self and makes them appear to be its own qualities. So ego cheats. The qualities of self are grabbed by this ego, that these are my qualities. Though we have seen so many people dying, we always feel we will not die now. We will live for at least a little more time. Know that the ego feels thus only because its nature is to superimpose upon itself the qualities of the deathless self. See, the ego talks like the self because the qualities of self are superimposed upon ego. So this is the cheating of ego. Verse 131. The ever shining first person existence consciousness, I was, I am, I will be, and the knowledge that one is never subject to any such thing as death are both only the natural qualities of self. But due to the mere presence of self, the insentient ego, whose nature is to rise, dance, and subside, usurps these qualities of self and acts as if they were its own qualities. Verse 132. This ego, which rises in the form I am the body, lives only by stealing as its own both self's nature of consciousness and the body's nature of insentience. Know that in this feeling, I am the body, the consciousness, I am is truly self's own knowledge, whereas the ego's quality of rising and subsiding is the base nature of the body. Verse 133. The ego, which rises and seems to exist only by usurping the consciousness I am, which is the property of self, makes a false show in the waking state which it lives, saying, I will not die. I did exist in sleep. This is a falsehood more vast than the sky. But when the ego itself is false, is there any wonder, therefore, in its speaking only falsehood? Next topic is the body and yoga. Verse 134. If it is asked, why is it said in scriptures that for attaining self experience the human body is best? It is in order to reveal that this body alone enables one to have the keen discrimination, viveka, to scrutinize the three states of waking, dream, and deep sleep, and thereby to attain self knowledge. Verse 135. When the scriptures say a human birth is the best, they mean only that is said above and in verse 94 with its ensuing note. The saying after it has come to you, cherish this human body is not at all the intended meaning. The destiny, prarabdha, which has given you this human body will cherish or protect it. Therefore, without worrying about protecting the body, you should earnestly make effort to remove the delusion I am this body by intense inquiry, that is vichara. Verse 136. A human body is necessary in order for us to attain self knowledge. All right, it has now come to us. But if we still have a liking for this human body, and if we desire to make it healthy and strong, the attachment to it in the form I and mine will increase, and it will not help us in the least to destroy the feeling I am this body, Dehyatma Bhava. That desire to protect the body and to make it healthy and strong is indeed an obstacle to the attainment of self knowledge. 100, verse 137. These ideas expressed in the above three verses are an expanded elucidation to make us clearly understand the true import of the Jnana percept given by Sri Ramana in verse 12 of supplement to reality in 40 verses, which says, trying to know the real self and at the same time cherishing the unreal and perishable body is like taking hold of a crocodile as a raft in order to cross a river. That is the shop rent, verse 138. The rent which we must give for this shop, our body, is simple. Basic food, clothing and shelter. If we do not pay this rent, we will have to go out leaving this body. Just like a merchant who has to vacate his shop when he does not pay the rent. Verse 139. The worldly life that we live is similar to the business done by a foolish merchant who earns only enough to pay the rent. Only he who toils hard and thereby earns a profit that is many times greater than the rent is a wise and skillful merchant. Like such a merchant, we should try to attain the great profit of self knowledge before the death of this body. Heading: The Fear of Death. Verse 140. If the fear of death truly comes and takes possession of the mind, that alone will be sufficient. The mind will then automatically turn and take refuge in the Supreme Lord. But know that this benefit will result only for those who possess good qualities and not for those who possess evil qualities. Verse 141. If the fear of death comes to those who are possessed of selfishness and of skillfully cunning and perverted intellects, they will become unscrupulously wicked and will ruin themselves, making great efforts to enjoy all the petty pleasures of the life senses before the body. mm, mm, Petty pleasures of the five senses before the body perishes. Verse 142. But if the fear of death comes to people who have mature and exalted minds, they will scrutinize the connection that exists between the body and the soul by keenly attending to their mind, the first person consciousness, I, in order to know to what extent does this death affect us. Verse 143. Having understood if death is only the destruction of the body, then it is merely the state in which I, the soul, am separated from the insentient body. The mind of the aspirant will come to a bold determination, accepting thus, let me remain in the same manner as I would be when death occurs in practice. Verse 144. This bold determination is dispassion, vairagya. Only when it arises will true renunciation be attained. When true renunciation is thus attained as a result of fear of death, then and there the divine grace of Guru will arise and function so as to separate us other than this body as a self, the nature of existence, consciousness, Satya Chit Savrupa. Thus the attachment to the body as I, Deha Abhimana will perish. Verse 145. When the power of divine grace functions thus, the true light of self-consciousness, the one peerless reality, will shine forth, expanding and blossoming in the heart, whereupon in front of that brilliant light, this world and our life as an individual in this world will disappear, being found to be a mere false appearance, just as in front of the sun the yellow stain of turmeric disappears from a white cloth. Verse 146. Since the truth, the death which comes is only for this filthy body and is not in any way for us, will the shine forth as one's own experience. The fear of death will thereafter never rise again. Since the truth, uh, verse 147. The patient forbearance, udasina, or indifference to mundane happenings, absence of all base qualities, fearlessness, the steadfast power of the true love, and all the six exalted divine qualities, Bhagavata Gunas, divine splendor, valor, glory, pure knowledge, divine prosperity, and desirelessness will shine in one clearly and harmoniously. Verse 148. After the death of the mind has thus been firmly attained as a result of the fear of the death of the body, since there is no law that the body should die as soon as the mind dies. In the outlook of others, the body of the Jivan Mukta will continue to live, yet his mind will have died due to the dawn of true knowledge. 149. The existence consciousness I am, which continues to live even after the mind has died, alone is the supreme reality, Brahma, which continues to exist even after the entire universe has been destroyed, Parlaya. Since there is never even for a moment any such thing as death or destruction for this self consciousness, I am know that this I am alone is the unending and indestructible Supreme Self. Part 27. Birthlessness and Deathlessness. Verse 150. Not thinking the body to be I is birthlessness. Never forgetting the self consciousness I am is deathlessness. When and why will birth or death come to those who, abiding in the state of self knowledge, are ever devoid of thinking and forgetting? Verse 151. Thinking of anything other than I is alone birth. Not thinking of anything other than I is liberation. Will those who have learned well the art of not thinking and who thereby abide firmly in the thought free state come again under the sway of thought? The practice of refraining from seeing oneself as the many object of this world is alone perfect practice sadhana. If one achieves success in this sadhana, then there will be no more birth or death. 152, verse 152. In order not to experience either birth or death, let us arrive at the exalted practice sadhana of abiding in the natural state which is devoid of thinking and forgetting. If we learn correctly how to abide thus, then for what reasons will we take birth or die? The art of abiding without doubt in the state of self is alone worthy for us to learn. Part 28. The transcendent nature of self, verse 153. This vast world, God, souls, bondage, and liberation all appear to exist only in the waking and dream states in which thought, thoughts exist. but do they exist in sleep, which is devoid of thoughts? Similarly, they do not exist in the state of self knowledge, Turiya. If one scrutinizes to whom do they appear to exist in waking and dream, they will cease to exist. Verse 154. Since they are known only when thoughts exist, and since they do not shine when one abides firmly in self, the creator of the soul,